Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 13th, 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals regular monthly meeting for the Village of Austin. This is a public hearing that is quasi judicial. As such, I want to remind those in the building and those of the in-person rules, as well as the rules for those using the Zoom platform. We ask that no one speak in the audience. If you have something you need to say or discuss, we ask that you please take it outside of the room and down the hall towards the front door. If you talk outside of the conference room doors, your conversation will echo back into the room. When you come up before the board, you must provide your name and address. Remember, you are addressing the board. You are not speaking to an applicant or their representative. Applicants and representatives, please remember you are addressing the board as well. We are using a hybrid format, but the public will continue to have the opportunity to see and hear the meeting live through Zoom and provide comments during the appropriate time. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online via the Zoom app may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you would like to make a comment. The feature is located at the bottom of your screen. Those attending via telephone can press *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you have pressed *9 and will unmute those waiting one at a time so that you can speak. Comments can also be emailed during the public hearing to the Village Planning Department at plan@villageofaustining.org. The meeting will be recorded, and a transcript of the meeting will be available at a later date. To ensure this meeting is orderly and to get a clear recording, there are a few ground rules. When you are given access to speak, please state your name and address. If you're speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject of the hearing. And if any speaker is inappropriate, they will be immediately cut off. We are.
Sorry, I was looking for Joe.
Oh. We are ready to get started. Roll call.
I'm sorry. Marlene Cheatham,
Present.
Michael Spall,
Present.
Bob Durea,
Present.
Olga Montez,
Present.
and Kyle Avarizik is not
No.
yet here.
Also with us tonight is Maddie Zahach, Joseph Agostinelli,
We're working on that one.
okay, maybe, Jamie Kane, and our land use attorney, Linda Whitehead.
And again, everybody please speak loudly and clearly so they can hear you on the other side.
And for the members, please state your name when we make a motion. First on our agenda for tonight is the approval of the minutes from the November 29th, 2022 meeting. If everyone has had a chance to look at them, if there is no objection, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes with any necessary corrections?
So moved, Bob.
And may I have a second?
Olga, second.
If there's no objection, motion carried. Motion accepted. So the minutes have been approved. New business of the board, ZBA 22-2022, 36 Yale Avenue, William Morocco.
Roger.
Maracho. Okay. Is there anyone online as well, Mr.?
I'm not Mr. Maracho. My name is Joel Greenberg, and I'm the architect for Mr. Maracho. Mr. Maracho is here too.
Okay,
And we'll go through our presentation and answer any questions that you have.
perfect.
Also, I put up here on the board, just so for those of you who haven't been to the area, this is a series of pictures showing the upper right-hand corner is the building, and the lower pictures are adjacent property owners. Also in color too, I've shown the completely perimeter of the property. The pink is where the building is, which you see over there, and to the right of the building, way down over here, is where the garage is. So that
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's okay.
Just
Just
talk loud.
speak loud. As much as you can.
I'll speak as loud as I can. Is that
Pretend
okay?
you're yelling at your wife.
That's a no-no. Anyway, this is the building over here. This is the two-car garage, and you'll see in the numerous variances that we require, we're one of the few buildings, as you can see along the street here, that actually has off-street parking. We have parking for 4 cars, but we still need a variance for the additional cars that are required by the code. And anyway, I think we have two basic, if you look at the agenda, you'll see that there are a whole series of variances that are being required. The main one, of course, is the use variance, which is required because this is a 2-family zone, and this is what we call a pre-existing non-conforming 6-family house. When Mr. Maracho purchased the house in 2021, he was not made aware that the timeline had expired as far as the pre-existing non-conforming use, because the building had not been used for the period of time that's required by your code. So therefore, now we are here basically to discuss a use variance. The area variances we'll discuss toward the end of my presentation. You submitted to the members of the board a series of financial statements showing basically what would be a profit if we kept the 5 apartments as we requested, and if we had to go down to 4, that would then be would not be a profitable situation. So we were asking that that's number 1. Number 2, that the alleged hardship related to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. As you can see, the building is there. It's been there for many, many years. Do you know what year the building was built, about how old it is?
Not sure, about 100 years, sure.
Well, maybe not 100, but certainly pretty close. Many decades, let's put it that way. And it's been there, and it was, and we look back a little bit of the history of the building and discovered that it was 6 families. At one time, it was then reduced to 4 families, but pre-existing non-conforming use of 6 families is what, unfortunately, because of time and the vacancies, became it was no longer pre-existing.
But was it 6 most recently or 4?
When you purchased it, do you recall how many years?
Well, it was vacant when he purchased it, so it was needed.
Yeah, property card show us six apartments, which was the 6 kitchens.
So in other words, when he purchased the building, there were 6 apartments, whether obviously the time frame had expired. Anyway, going to quite the requirement number 3 for a use variance. We're not leaving of this building at 5 years, which is what we're requesting. Obviously, if you look at the neighborhood, the building has obviously is aged, but if you look at the buildings surrounding it, they're also in the same, probably the same area of time that they were built, probably way back, I'm guessing in the 30s and 40s, maybe even before that. Also, it is our understanding too that that not every building on this street and adjacent to our building is just 2 families. There are some multifamily houses also. So that as far as the change in the neighborhood, the granting of this use variance would not really alter the character of the neighborhood. The building would stay the same. The exterior is mostly masonry. It would be just cleaned up. The nice part is that the interior will be completely renovated. Obviously, it's been abandoned for some time now, and to create some nice apartments which would be available to residents of the village or people from the town of Ossining would certainly be helpful. Again, as I mentioned before, the fact that we're one of the few buildings that actually has off-street parking for 4 cars, which is, as you can see, the buildings almost basically, if you look at the pictures on the bottom, these buildings are almost touching each other. So there's really no room except where there are garages for off-street parking. So we do have a plus there, but the fact that we do have a parking for 4 cars. Again, just to repeat, the essential character of the neighborhood would not change. We're not building anything. All we're doing is cleaning up the outside of the building and completely renovating the inside of the building, which would then create 5 very pleasant and very nice apartments. And then finally, the final criteria for a use variance is that the alleged hardship has not been self-created. Again, unfortunately, when Mr. Moracho purchased the building, he was not made aware that the time had expired and the pre-existing non-conforming use had expired, and therefore it technically had to revert back to what is the zone now, which is a 2-family zone. So basically, I think that if you look through all the paperwork that we submitted and the brief that was also submitted by our attorney, basically I've reviewed most of them now. You'll see that, again, we have a building that's there, it's vacant, and I think the whole idea is to get it used, get some income out of it, and really basically leaving abandoned buildings, as I'm sure you're well aware, is not the best thing for any neighborhood. So by allowing this use variance to be approved, we can get 5 nice apartments there, all spanking new and ready for rentals. Now, just to go on now to the area variances, the code also requires that you have 2 parking spaces for every apartment, and that would hold true for our building and any other building. Again, thank goodness we do have the garage, which will contain 4 cars, so we do need basically 6-car variance for that. But again, we're one of the few buildings that has some off-street parking, and we would think that variance would not be a burden on the community or the area. And finally, the code also requires that each apartment contain a minimum of 800 square feet. Again, if you look at the plans, and this was reviewed by the building inspector, there are a couple of the apartments that are just under, I think the smallest one is, and actually I can tell you what it is. Madam Chair, you're not the only one that trusts me. Anyway, to make a long story, back to this microphone. To make a long story
Don't worry
short,
about the microphone.
it's here, so I keep saying, but you can all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Anyway, basically, most of half of the apartments do meet the 800 square feet. The ones that don't are in the 720. So we're not talking about humongous variances as far as the square footage is concerned. And we will lay out the apartments so that they have easily access. All the kitchens and the bathrooms will be renovated. Well,
No,
in fact, the entire interior of the building will be renovated. So basically, I think we've adequately answered the questions that are required for use
Can we
variance.
just clarify one thing? I
Sure.
thought it was 4 out of the 5 that didn't meet the livable area.
The apartments on the first and second,
Oh, wait a minute.
Third.
Okay. Wait a second.
So is this one?
Could be.
No, there's
I
one.
think the
that
one on the
lists-
top floor did, but I don't think
Yes.
the other 3.
Yes, we have 720, 772. This is the lower floor.
Right. So the lower floor was just an office space.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's it. Here it is.
Yeah.
750, you're right, 751, 720, and the apartment upstairs is 1,436. So, yes, the other apartments, 4 of them do need slight variances, but they're all over anywhere from 720 to 751 square feet.
But
So,
that was the size of the apartment. Is that the livable space? Or the,
Oh, no, I clarified that with the building inspector. I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the questions that he brought up when we were doing the square footage, he said that the hallways and staircases are not included. This is actually livable space.
right,
Okay.
so the most you're asking for is 80 square feet.
Yes, that-
The T-zone only requires a minimum 800 livable space.
Right, there's no habitable.
there's no
requirement.
habitable, but I
The
was just,
habitable doesn't apply in this zone district.
yeah, I was clarifying because he gave the square footage of the apartments. Was that just the 720 or 700 was the livable space, not the size of the apartment itself?
Right, that's the livable space, which would include all spaces, including bathrooms, kitchens, bedrooms.
Livable is the whole apartment.
but not
Right.
the. Always outside.
Mike Spall, could you put this over for a second? Wait. The other side.
Oh, that's it.
Building over.
So the area in green there, is that gonna be built out at all?
No, everything you see here is there now. The green part over here is the actual property itself. The blue is the four-car garage, and the pink is the apartment building. So the pink is this area over here.
Right.
The blue is the garage area over here.
So on
What's
the
the
ground.
green?
Oh, the green is just the outline of the property.
Yeah, like on the top.
Okay,
Now, the property contains a total of 6,187 square feet.
got it. Thank you.
So when I take a look at the facade of the building, will the apartments on the ground floor and also the 2 floors above?
No, the ground floor area will be again opened up, and that will be Mr. Maracho's office. The other, the set 5 apartments will be 2, 4, and the 5th one will be
So,
opened up.
I'm sorry, just so you're looking to put an office on the first floor
Well, the
and
owner's office.
5 apartments?
Yes,
Yes.
How does that affect use? Lena?
Well, because
Yeah.
that's commercial.
Yeah, now it's a mixed use.
Now it's a mixed use, that was the.
You know that, Joe?
Well, that was not what was proposed. It was proposed that you wanted to have a 5 apartments in a 2-family zone district.
yes.
Never had discussion about adding an office use there.
Let me clarify, this is a place for Mr. Maracho's office. This is not something that's rentable. It's,
Well, but it's his office. He's not, is he gonna live here? Is it part of his, of one of the apartments, or is it a separate office space?
oh, it's right here.
Yeah, it was on the plans. I
It was
saw
on the
that.
plan.
It said office.
Yeah. This is the first floor plan right here now. There's an office area here.
So how do we know he can't rent it? It's an office. Yeah,
Well, if that's gonna be a question, then we'll just eliminate it.
But I would say in the description of the application, that was not mentioned, right? What you were asking for was a 5-family home
Right,
in a 2-family zone district. On your application, you're not asking for a mixed use to
okay.
have an office space and 5 apartments.
Right, so that changes.
You're correct. The plan shows it, but the application did not, so let's do for that.
So-
So what would that first floor be?
Well, right, actually, what it can be now, well, we can, is use it for storage for, things for the apartments and, maybe additional, like basically a storage area.
Does it have a bathroom?
Well, that's existing, yes.
It doesn't have a kitchen.
No.
Okay. So it's actually set up currently as it would be as if it was an office.
Yes, but if a mixed use, as the building inspector just mentioned, is something that is going to complicate the situation, then we'll just eliminate it. Just make it storage, which I think is permitted.
I guess I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Does anyone else have questions? I see the garage, and I know you had a picture of the garage. It looks small. How do you get 4 cars in there?
Oh, okay, I will show you.
I don't think you gave us a plan
Right,
for
is
the
there a
garage.
plan
a
for the
layout.
garage?
No, but what I can do.
So we would
Hold
need a
on.
plan that showed that the spaces were for conforming.
They're tandem, aren't they?
Yes, in other words,
That's what-
I
that's
spoke
what I
with the
had to
building
say.
inspector.
But it may not
Yeah, oh, yes, it
meet
is.
Oh,
the
yeah.
criteria, the size.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I understand
It's narrow.
that the reason it looks like it's only 2. is
No,
because
if you
it's
if you
too
look
deep.
here, it's hard to see, but I show the 4 cars here, and each of these spaces is, well, in length, they're more than 20 feet each, but the code requires, I believe, 9 by 20, so each one of these spaces is 9 by 20.
Right, but also the code says you can't have tandem parking, so you have to have access to the street for each parking space without obstruction. So if your intent is to put 1 car in front of the other, that's actually tandem parking. And that would be obstructing to the vehicle to the back of the
That was-
garage would not be able to get out to the street without moving another vehicle, so that garage actually accommodates 2 vehicles at best, not 4.
Need a variance for 2 more spaces.
Correct.
Okay.
So we can amend our application. then. Thank you for pointing
But I
that
think,
out.
Jody, you still want to see the layout, to make sure the width is
Yeah,
sufficient.
because you also have to make sure that you have 9 by 18 spaces, 9 feet wide by 18 feet in length.
So
So
you
you'll have to have that measured out and shown on the plan for that in the garage.
Hold on a second, I will tell you exactly what the size is. Space here is 10. Actually, 10 by 25.
All right, if you could just give
Oh,
us a plan.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Absolutely.
So the application, so the parking variance.
Mhm.
Would
Increases.
increase to, by 2.
Right.
I did see financial data in your packet, except it really didn't give us any information. It just kind of said this works and this doesn't. So we really needed to see, I guess, a more detailed financial data.
And what it has to show is that the property, you can't yield a reasonable return for any permitted use. So you gave us just profit and loss statements, which include depreciation, so they're not even true cash flow.
So just tell me exactly. how
Well,
you
that's,
want it.
you haven't, I mean, this isn't what the law requires. The law requires that you provide financial proof that you can't get a reasonable return.
Oh, okay, I understand.
It's not a present cash flow analysis.
The second, I think we talked about the garage layout. Oh, the zoning workshop sheet. Can you bring that up?
Yeah.
Jenny?
So there's capital
Okay.
costs that are going to go into renovating that building in those spaces. And then the rent that you're gonna get on each of those spaces over time, what does that look like?
Well, that's what.
By apartment.
So that's more of what your analysis needs to show. What did you pay for it? What's it gonna cost you to
Heat,
rehab
electricity,
it?
Right.
Rehab, right.
Okay.
Ongoing expenses, like something that we can see that,
No, I think I understand what you mean.
but did you? Oh,
I'm trying, it's not giving me the option for some reason, so.
So your zoning worksheet was a little bare.
There it is.
So I
Yeah, but
know.
we're
just
just trying
not
to do
sharing
it as
it
a
with-
share screen.
So right now the board can see it, but the folks on Zoom can't. That's- We'll keep going.
So I know that at the top of it may be non-conforming, existing non-conforming, but can you just fill that in so that we have a complete worksheet as to what everything looks like?
Absolutely.
So you only have one screen, so you have to share your entire screen. Just click share. And when you go over to the other window, after you click share, they're gonna see this.
Oh, that's annoying. Okay, thank you.
Interesting.
So the update will be for,
So we'll have a garage plan. As I said, I scaled it. It does conform to what the building inspector said. And we'll also, as Linda asked, we'll update the financial statement.
Will you be adding the mixed use back in?
I'm sorry?
Will you be adding the mixed use back in? Because you're coming back with additional information.
We'll talk to the building inspector, see if that is going to complicate the application.
Because that could affect your financials then.
Exactly.
right,
So, yeah, right now, yeah, I think the answer is no.
Are you changing the facade in any way?
The only, well, the upper part of the building that's gonna be just cleaned up, and then and the area down here will just, right now, it's just all plywood, we're just gonna, just put some decent windows here and make it look presentable.
Okay.
Present the bigger windows.
Yeah.
like More light inside.
Right.
Just so it doesn't look like a
nicer
dungeon.
overhang here, so look nicer,
Mm-hmm.
So
with a nice aluminum or metal roof on the front, will look really nice.
okay, there, I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, we're just used to seeing a plan that shows, is that required?
Like, So your variances aren't related to like setbacks or
Setbacks.
anything like
Right,
that,
so no.
but it may be helpful.
I'm sorry,
I said it may be helpful to the
what are
board
we talking
to
about?
see what the building's gonna look like, what your plans are. And it certainly would relate, as you discussed, to the cost. So to see that you're, fixing up the building, but I think, Joe, you found, had it been a 6 or you thought it had been a 5? I know that the assessor had it as 6, but you thought it was
No,
5.
actually, in 2016, the building was placarded and shut down for numerous violations. Actually, some of those violations are on there for operating apartments in there that we had no records of. It was on the violation. It was pending in a town of Austin court for a number of years. And the previous owner was well aware of those violations that included having apartments in there that were not ever registered on our records as existing. I believe we had it as a 4-family. He was running, I believe, a 5 or a 6. So if this apartment complex has been sold to the current owner, were they under the impression of it being 6, there were violations that I believe would have shown in a title search that showed that some of those apartments were not legal. They were in as part of the violation that was issued at the time when, in 2016, when the building was shut down.
It's a ticking clock.
But either way, whether it 4, 5, 6, or whatever the interpretation is, fact is, it was a pre-existing non-conforming use that it does not exist after 6 months, and it's been 6 years since it's been vacant.
There might have been 6 kitchens, but they were never legal.
Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you
thank
very
you very
much.
much.
So we need to adjourn this to some,
No. Let me do
you do it.
Good job.
I'm sorry.
it. If there's nothing else from the board, then may I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Kyle.
Seconded, Mike.
If there's no objections to opening the public hearing by unanimous consent, the public hearing is now open.
Sorry.
Let them do her job.
Is there anyone, I don't know if you want to start in or out? Anyone from the public that would like to speak on this?
Yes.
Please come up, state your name and address.
Good evening, members of the board. Excuse my hoarseness. I'll try to talk as loud as I can.
It's the winter, it's okay.
My name is John Perillo, and I reside at 72 Havel Street in the village of Ossining. I'm a resident for the past 71 years. Prior to me getting notification of this meeting tonight, I sent a letter to the village board regarding situations of Havel Street, Yale Avenue, and Dale Avenue. If any of the people in this room use that on a daily basis, we know that there's heavy congestion on a daily use. Havel Street and Yale Avenue, it's a chicken status, it's whoever gets there first can proceed. Most of the people don't know if there's cars parked on their side of the road that they have to yield to oncoming traffic. This is a letter I sent, if I can give it to the board, back in June. I did attend the village board meeting last month to reinforce what their intentions were doing. I heard a lot of chatter about converting from 2-family to 5-family. That's like 150% use. So, and I understand that the gentleman explained that it would not be cost financially to not do anything less. There is a big difference if he wants to renovate and make it a 2-family house than a 5-family house. So it may be more financially worth it for him to do that, because you eliminate kitchens, bathrooms, and all of the other stuff that is involved in setting this up. And in fact, that would be, I assume, the applicant's due diligence as I recall. Many of you may know or not know that I'm a former member of your board yesteryear. And so I don't know if that's a reason for granting such approval from 2 to 5 families. Regarding the garage there, because I did visit this area, I don't see how those 2 garage doors can fit 4 cars inside. So the math that I come up with is he needs, based on 5 apartments, it would be 10 cars. I don't know how many he could squeeze in the garage based on the conversation
Only
here.
2 required, so he needs a variance for 8.
2, oh yeah, okay. And that doesn't include if the rental person has children that drive. Okay, so that can go to, 15. We don't know that. So I would assume that, I would hope that the board takes a real careful look at this applicant. I have found, and it hurts me to say this, being even a former mayor of the village, that Austin, in my opinion, I own a lot of properties in Austin, Briarcliff, and Croton, that I don't want Austin to become a dumping ground for people to take advantage of our community. I travel that road several times a day in making my rounds and stuff like that. And I think that we can all agree that something needs to be done on Yale Avenue and Havel Street. Okay, and I hope the board, as they promised me, that they're looking into all of this here. So I don't know the gentleman, and I know what he does based on the conversation, because I, for the past 60 years, have been doing the same thing. And it hurts me to think that, that we're going to cram 5 families in this area here, that we can all agree that it just doesn't fit. It's 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag, okay? Or probably even worse. So I assume, based on the conversation, you may adjourn this meeting for further input. And will I get notified again to come here, or should I automatically just come?
Just check the agenda.
Check the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
Assuming that when they resubmit the information that's been requested, they will be on an agenda. So,
you can have that.
here, we'll keep it forever. So it won't have to be
Yeah.
renoticed necessarily,
Okay.
unless he changes it to a mixed use. That's a
Okay, yeah.
variance.
Yeah, so, just, like I said, nothing against the gentleman. I'm not here to bash anybody, but I think for the greater good of the community, that we need to slow things down. And I'm glad that it was mentioned from the building inspector that records don't show that it was ever a 6-family or a 4-family or whatever it is. But it all goes back, because I do the same thing. I haven't been doing it in a while, but it's due diligence. I mean, his attorney, I assume he had an attorney to do the closing and everything, that usually, says, this is what you're buying, it's a 2-family, and that's the process. Or I don't know if he's a contract vendee. Does he own the property? Does anybody know that? Yeah, he does own it. Okay, so I thank you for your time. I will be leaving. I'm not going to stay for the whole meeting. So
Oh, come on.
Yeah. It takes a lot for me to come back to these
Nice to
things.
see you, John. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Christmas.
All of you have a great holiday and a Merry Christmas.
You too. You too. Bye-bye.
Yes, when do I not want to talk? Good evening, everybody. So my name is Marcia Perello, that's my husband, John. And he basically said it all. But one of the reasons why I insisted that we be here this evening is because I am now more than ever very concerned with what's happening in Ossining, with the buildings, with the parkings, with the garages, with the traffic, with the commercial cars parked everywhere, etc. So I don't normally attend these meetings, especially zoning, but I am very, very interested to hear what is happening. And like my husband said, we don't know the gentleman. And we understand his predicament based on what we heard this evening. But I also heard the building inspector. Okay, I heard a lot of things. And I'm very curious to see what the board decides. And we are going to be following this particular case till the end, because I am very curious to see what happens here. Because I have to tell you, it's very, very obvious to see things that doesn't blow my mind when I go around the roads. The traffic situation is hell, but it's not. And this particular project that is being proposed, has anybody gone and driven by Yale? I mean, as it is, you can't maneuver.
I'm 2 blocks away. I live in there.
Oh, okay. So I live on the other side.
We review this information. in advance.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make everybody aware that we're aware of the intense, what's the word I'm looking for? Effect that this will have if this gets approved the way they want it. I believe that the laws of this community were put there to protect the community and to protect the village. And if we go around breaking every rule to accommodate others for whatever reason, it's the reason probably why we have what we have today. I think you guys all know that you were put there to follow the laws and impose the laws and do what you have to do. And I'm hoping that you do that. And again, apologies to Mr. Maracho, there's absolutely nothing against you. But it is what it is. And somebody has to protect this village. Somebody has to stand up for it. And somebody has to really impose the law. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
Maureen?
and
Nice
just
to see you.
understand that, you know, we do have to work within the confines
Yes,
of not only the village code, but the New York State laws which govern
Right.
the zoning board. So everything we do is, you know, and you know, are within those confines.
yes,
So
and I
we do-
appreciate it.
We talk about it, we
Thank you.
discuss it, and we come back. That's why we have a land use attorney sitting here going, that's not legal.
Thank you for
No.
coming out.
All right, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and I wish you guys the best of luck.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas if I don't see you.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Is there anyone online to speak to this?
Nobody's raising their hand.
Nobody's raising their hand. Is there any emails?
No.
Okay. If there's no one else in the building?
Madam Chairman, can I just say a few more words in regard to the comments about the.
Well, you can't speak to them.
No, I mean, I'm speaking to you.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the purpose of the zoning board is to listen to situations where you are asked to vary, or whether it's a use variance or an area variance, and that's your charge. As far as the situation on that street, again, these buildings were here. Now, as the building inspector said, whether, and maybe he can answer the question, at any particular time, as far back as your records go, what was the legal number of apartments for that building?
I think you said 4,
I
right,
think
Joe?
it's 4.
But does that, not-
As far as we knew, that was always a 4-family building.
so I just have a question because that was confusing me. So if it was pre-existing non-conforming 4 in a 2-family district and it was not used for 6 years, we have to approve everything over 2 families, correct?
Yeah.
It's as if the 4 never,
Existed.
Yes,
Yes.
we're at the beginning again. Like it says here.
the right to the legal non-conformity lapsed.
So to be clear, it's 8 additional spaces that are not being covered.
Well, that's for
That's for
parking.
parking.
This is for the actual apartment spaces.
Right.
Right now, we have to hold that space to a 2-family
Family.
regardless of its past. And
If
consider,
they had done it during the period when it was non-conforming, legally non-conforming, like they had come in that time period,
Four
then
would have been good
it
to
was,
go.
right, but because it has been since 2016, it has been vacant, that has now lapsed.
Right.
Since that has lapsed, we're back to a two-family district, and he's asking for 5 families, which means, 3 of those apartments are not conforming.
And there's also a number of area variances,
And a number
the parking variance, the
Size of the
livable
apartment.
areas,
So 8 spaces, that's a lot in that neighborhood.
right? I know you haven't really addressed those, the area variances.
Well, I said, obviously, we're coming back, so we'd like to
Okay, so,
review the entire project and
um,
discuss it with the building
the
inspector.
building-
But I think he's enlightened us as to exactly at what point, when it was illegal, it was apparently for. But
Yeah.
This is information that obviously we'll take into consideration when we come back to the board, and we will respond to the questions. And as far as the traffic is concerned, I'm assuming that law enforcement will take care of, illegally parked cars and so on and so forth. But obviously, and the other question, the other thing I want to bring up, yeah, this is right. This is now a 2-family zone, but if you look at the building and you look at the plans that we submitted, to put only 2 families in a structure of that size would be enormous. I mean, you're talking about,
1,600 square feet versus 800.
You make really nice apartments too, that you could rent for a lot of money.
we'll think about that, but as I said, there's a lot of area in those 3 stories.
You get a couple of 4-bedrooms apartments.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what the purchase price of the property was? For you
Do I
or
know?
current owner?
No.
Because that is important.
Yeah, well,
I think that
I
could be part of
think
the
Linda
plan.
indicated what we have to do with that, and we will take care
I
of that.
think I might have been before you came in. Kyle.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I said that the financial information they gave us is not,
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
It's the reasonable return.
Yeah.
That's on my mind.
right, that's
Reasonable
why I
return is-
explained is you have to have a reasonable return.
Okay, well, thank you again for listening to us. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, most important, a healthy one.
Thanks, like,
Madam Chairman, it's just, you may want to check though, that a 3-bedroom, section 8 in the village of Austin goes for around 3,200 plus. I don't know what their updated is, but that's what my information from like a year. Oh, yeah.
It's more than my mortgage and taxes
Yeah,
on my old
Well,
family.
that's one of the reasons, look.
and they have to provide.
They have to
the- yeah.
provide,
Yeah.
they have to look at what the,
Right.
what
With the
going rate
financial
are, what
is
the
of the
financials
person.
will be.
But if you check with section 8, they have the list.
They do have.
And it may be even more than 3,200, so 32.
That's the Sharon knows.
For
I-
3
I
bedroom.
do.
So
It's almost 4.
it's almost 4.
It's almost
Yeah.
4,000.
Interesting. So it may not, it may be financial gain
But
for.
they have to do
2
the work.
Yeah,
They
they
will
will, yeah.
get back to us.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good
guys.
night.
You
So-
need to-
Good night.
Now you can.
Huh?
Right?
Now, if there's, may I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Seconded, Mike.
If there's no other, anyone else to speak on this, the public hearing is now adjourned. May I have a motion to adjourn this matter to the January,
So moved, Kyle.
pending, information from the. Okay, ma'am, a second.
No, second, Bob.
If there's no objection from the board, this matter will be adjourned to the January 2023 meeting. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much and enjoy your holiday. Thanks, everyone.
For the record, fair market rent is 27.82 for a 4-bedroom, 25.15 for a 3-bedroom. Well, it's Westchester County.
They're asking,
They're asking 1,800 for a 1-bedroom.
Yeah, that sounds low.
I know.
No, but this is the section 8. So
Oh,
if they're trying to establish like a baseline fair market rent, the section 8 would be, it cannot be below that.
gotcha.
So if they claim it's below that for finance, to show
I
that
know,
results in
that's,
something.
I saw that and I said, wait.
Didn't have enough units.
I didn't speak at all because I didn't know if I should at all.
Why?
Like,
I know this man for 20 years and I for the integrity of the board, I don't think I can be there.
Okay, so at the beginning,
So, right, so at the
Yeah.
beginning of our
so,
next meeting.
you know,
recuse
for the
yourself.
record, why don't you say it now? You didn't participate.
Oh, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
You want me to
So-
say it louder?
And
Olga Montez did not speak a word.
you're going to be recusing
And I will
yourself.
be. I
For
will be
the, to protect the integrity of the board, yes.
Okay.
I love it when people talk about that neighborhood, because I live there, and it's like,
Okay.
they talk about it like.
Okay.
it's-
Oh, right.
like it's not what it is.
We can't talk about it now.
It's adjourned. Talk about it in January. ZBA 23/2022, 10 Jenkins Court. Is there anyone to speak on that matter?
That's Mr. Bell.
Let me raise that.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Benvenino, Mr. Pasquini.
Hello. We have two of the hardest Italian names to pronounce in Ossining. Maybe Joseph included. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Bevavino. I'm here representing Joe and Tara Pessanetti and their property at 10 Jenkins Court. We are seeking an area variance to repair, replace their existing front stairs to their home. They're currently constructed out of wood railroad ties and brick, and are in a pretty terrible condition. They're sort of rotting away, and the bricks are sinking into the earth below. We are in an S75 district, so the required front yard setback is 30 feet, which you can see this dash line here. So the existing front yard setback is about 6.5 feet. So these dashed lines, and I can show you a better drawing of this, are where the existing stair is. So we're not looking to increase the nonconformity. We just want to replace the existing steps with a concrete and stone clad structure. So let me just go to this. So the existing stairs are kind of a number of a funky size, landing, and dimension. The treads change size. There's this weird little dog leg. So we're kind of cleaning that all up. Underneath the front portico, a run of stairs with a landing, and then just a single sort of L turn out towards the driveway. So the proposed stair will look something like this. Like I said, stone clad concrete with white exact trim rail and guard. Kind of similar to what some of the other homeowners on Jenkins Court have done. Many of these homes were all built at the same time. A lot of them have replaced their stairs over the years and replaced them with similar structures. So we're just looking to do the same. Like to conclude there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna believe this or not, but I actually have no questions.
Wait, let's write that down.
Maybe this is one of the first people, other than a large developer, to provide all the things that we would ask
Right.
for.
I agree. I have nothing to ask about this.
Oh, my goodness. Can we like put this in the minutes forever?
I'll also say, I don't know anybody except the people we normally work with, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Not increasing the existing non-conforming use in terms of length versus the setback that's required. Obviously, it looks in disrepair. Multiple homes on that same street have already done similar things. It just makes sense to me.
Yep.
Is there anything else from the board?
Nothing.
Okay, is there anyone in the public? Oh, wait a minute. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion, Olga, motion to open.
Seconded, Mike.
Public hearing, if there's no objection, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone from the public to speak? To speak on this development? On this application? Seeing none? No emails? No, okay. If there is none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second,
So moved by Michael, seconded by Bob for the record. I guess we will go through the area variance. And to be clear, the variance needed. Let me make sure. Is
Madam Chair, just to, the only reason why, even though there may be not an increase in what was previous there with the setback, the only reason why they're in front of the board today is because essentially when they build a new structure, they have to get an updated and new variance. So that really was the only reason why they were referred to the board. It's not an increase, I believe, of what you have as the current setback, or it's pretty close. It's just the fact that they're taking down a structure and building a new one with a portico. So I referred them to the board just basically to get an updated variance. So it would reflect the new structure.
the portico is new, but I think the existing conditions, front yard setback was required 30 feet, they're at 6.56, so, and I think there was no change.
Right.
So they need the variance for the 23.44, is that correct, Mr. Agostinelli?
Yes.
That's correct.
I was gonna say that, but you jumped in.
No, it's correct. It's just basically because it's a 30-foot setback. Obviously, the 30-foot setback takes you right to the front of the house. Our code doesn't allow exemptions of staircases. They count the setback requirements. So unfortunately, they just have to get an updated variance.
But we do know in Jenkins Court, if I remember correctly, the setbacks in all of those, with all those houses were built up almost up to the site.
A lot of them had
A lot
similar.
of them don't.
And they all have the same non-conforming area, so.
Yes,
we'll see.
Okay, I'll do this.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So the factors that you're supposed to consider in undertaking your weighing of the benefit to the applicant against the detriment to the health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood or community. First, an undesirable change will be produced in the character of their neighborhood, or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
I say no, because it's actually keeping in line with the upgrades that other properties have made. And aside from adding the portico, which half of these homes also already have on the new stairs, it looks like it'll be a more attractive and safer addition to the neighborhood.
I agree, 100%.
Kyle said no.
I will sit.
Oh, wait, did I say no?
No.
Investing with you.
Okay. Next, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
No,
I don't believe so, no.
No.
No, because the house is right at
It's
the,
up
The
against
house is
you
so
can't
much.
get to the front door without putting
Put
stairs.
stairs.
That's right.
And I think cleaning up the stairs, making them a little safer, because as it was noted by the architect, they are not very, there's different widths and different lengths, and just cleaning up the railroad ties, I think would be a big thing.
Requested area variance is substantial.
I'm gonna say yes, because 23,
Yes, in number,
yes in number, but
but not in
But
impact.
considering
And
it's
then
near
different.
exact
To what
to
is
the
there.
prior non-conforming use, I would say. no.
yeah, the benefits outweigh that.
Mhm.
It was a pre-existing condition.
Agreed.
Proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
No, it's conforming to what's already there.
It's occupying the same space pretty much, and it will look better
I think, yeah.
and be safer.
And-
I think it's a very nice improvement.
The alleged difficulty was self-created, trying to do two things at once. Alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the zoning board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
It was not self-created because the setback goes up to the home and there have to be
Right.
stairs there.
Correct.
And, you know, the deterioration.
And they're
of the railroad
deteriorated.
Is not, I mean, unless they were out there with a jackhammer, I don't think it was there.
Okay, so based on that, you can need to vote on the granting the variance.
Yes.
So, at this time, may I have a motion to approve this variance? This application, okay. This-
So moved.
Okay.
Bob second.
Okay. Moved by Olga, seconded by Bob, for us to move forward with this application. Roll call. Yeah.
Kyle Aberrizek,
Yes.
Olga Montez,
Aye.
Bob Torreo,
Aye.
Michael Spall,
Aye.
Chair Cheatham.
I think I was thrown off by Kyle not having.
Either that or having these too close together is an issue.
Okay.
Funny.
Thank you. sir.
Congratulations.
Please note that it will take some time for you to get your actual documents to move forward with this. So until then, have a happy holiday and enjoy and don't come back.
Mayor.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Careful on the stairs.
Bye.
Don't jinx it.
Let's take them out.
Okay, so we are at ZBA 24/2022.
Yeah.
Yes. 44 Iroquois Road. And Ruda Burma. And I know I just butchered that, I'm sorry.
Max, I've just brought you over. If you can turn on your camera and unmute, please.
Yes, I can just, yes, good evening. It's Max Parangi from Max Parangi Architects. I'm the architect of record on the project. Just let me give you a quick description of what is happening. We are putting a dormer addition at the rear of this property. The addition is approximately 209 square feet. And we're seeking relief on the one side setback. There is a clause in the code. By the way, the width of our lot is 63 feet. So for lots that are greater than the minimum width of 50 feet, in our case being 63, the minimum lot width must have both sides yard setback equal to 40% of the lot width, with each side equaling a minimum of 45% of both side yard setbacks. Hence, our appearance in front of the ZBA. We basically are seeking relief on one side, which they require or allowed according to our calculations on the table should be 11.34, which is 45% of 25.2. And again, 25.2 being 40% of the total width of the lot. So we are basically seeking variance instead of 11.34. The existing is 8.35. By the way, I would like to reiterate that this is only on the second floor. So the 8.35 is existing, is the current setback to the first floor of the property. Since we are increasing the nonconformity slightly on the second floor because of this code rule in the code, we are, appearing in front of the seeking relief for this one instance. We have some photographs and some elevations. We also are going in front of the BAR, so we have some color rendering. If Madam Chairman or the board were, want to take a look at it, and some photographs of the neighboring properties also. Any questions? I have with me here Mr. Avi Verma, who is the owner of the property. Also, if there is anything that he needs to answer directly, is here with us.
So this is Mike Spall from the board. To be clear, this is a second floor dormer coming out the rear.
Correct. In the back of the property, correct.
Oh, there it is.
Built on top of the existing roof line. Okay.
You actually can visualize it better on the right or left elevations, basically. The rooms that they have now is really not that usable under the attic space. This is the existing condition, so we are just trying to make two livable quarters out of it, and a full bathroom. Basically, this is going to become their master bedroom and master suite. But the bathroom is common in the hallway to both bedrooms. Just to quickly show the floor plan.
You should with on that side.
Could you zoom in on the site plan? There. There.
So the black dashed line would be the line of the setbacks. Also for the record, the portion, so basically we are seeking a variance relief for 2.99 feet. And the total square footage encroaching into the left setback is 39 square feet. That area that we are pointing out. The total encroaching is 39 square feet. So I would categorize it, if the board agrees with me, as a minor application. It's not also due to the fact that the 8.35 at the ground level is already existing.
So to be clear, the reason why you went out the left side is because the driveway is to the right?
No, they're going on both sides. They're going straight.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Both of the setbacks that you see on the left and right are existing. So we are basically just adding a dormer on the second floor.
Just to explain a little bit from the existing first floor is the same footprint. They're just extending up, so they're extending the nonconformity vertically up. The only way they would be fully in compliance is the second floor. They'd have to chop off that little section, which would aesthetically make the building look a little odd, that you have the facade on the left side only going to the first floor and then jotting in a number of feet and then going straight up. So that was originally what was proposed.
Yes.
By Mr. Parangi and his clients. But we felt it would be worth to just, go and apply for the variance so that aesthetically, when the Board of Architecture review looks at it, it just doesn't look a little odd that the top floor is kind of cut short.
On one side.
Essentially, he's not extending the distance of the building other than extending vertically up to the second floor of the nonconformity on that one side.
Thank you, Joseph, and very well put. I appreciate it. Better than I could have explained it, probably. Thank you.
Well, you did a very good job explaining it, so I'm just kind of reiterating what you said already.
Thank you. Thank you.
But it just kind of squares the building as you see in the elevations. Otherwise, what you would see is on one side, kind of the building chopped off on the second floor, and it would jot in a little bit. So this just kind of keeps the facade in line all the way up to the roof line.
And we hope that we will make the BAR happy with this. I mean, it was honestly sort of like their suggestion to, try, and submit this to the zoning board so the building would not be lopsided. Because on one side we can go fully to the side and with the addition, on the other side, we would have had a strip of roof of 3 feet, which also was sort of not quite balanced with the interior layout of the house.
Okay.
Also cutting back on the layout of the rooms too.
Okay. Thank you. Your question?
No, I have no questions.
Surprise.
I have no questions again.
If it makes sense, it makes
Makes
sense.
sense.
Your homework.
When people do their homework and especially when it's so minor, it's
It's
just,
refreshing.
It's
isn't it?
minor.
So may I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Mike.
May I have a second?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Bob.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I did. Second,
Okay.
third.
If there's no objection to opening the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience?
No?
Okay, or online to speak to this applicant's application?
No.
Seeing no one and no emails, then we will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
so moved, Kyle. So moved, Kyle.
Seconded, oh God.
All three of
You just write down whoever
Two
you.
meetings, 2 weeks in a
We're
row.
leaving
I
it
just-
to
I'm
Jamie to
thinking
write
it's not
down
fit.
whoever.
Okay, if there's no, okay, motion made and carried to close the public hearing. If there's no objection, the public hearing is now closed. This is an area variance
Yes.
of, and let me get this straight,
You already said that.
a side yard setback of
It's 2
2.99. Is that correct, Mr. Agustinelli?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Like I said, the architect used that exception in the code there where it shows you the percentage. That's where he's coming up with that number.
Right.
So what he's using there in the code is actually correct on how to calculate this.
Okay, so the combined side yard is 25.2 and one side yard is 11.34.
That's the required.
That's the required. What they have is 8.35,
Yes.
Yeah.
requiring a 2.99 variance. So
You want to go through the,
we will go through the
to
area
consider
variance.
whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
No.
I'm gonna say no, because on the front of the house, presentationally, it looks like the same. And I think it's better that he's requesting this variance so that it doesn't look lopsided on the top. I think that would have a detrimental
Yes.
impact on the character of the neighborhood. So no.
Agreed.
Benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
I would say yes, but in light of the information given to us tonight, it would actually change the,
Well, that goes to whether it's feasible. So remember that it has to be a method feasible. So does it make sense? Is it feasible to
I was
really
coming there.
push the addition in a couple of feet? But you started with yes.
I did say yes, because there is a method that is conceivably feasible, but would it aesthetically look right or be feasible for them to do? Then the answer would, in this case, I think it just makes sense for them to just add the addition and get the variance.
Yes, of the available choices, this is the best one.
Pretty good with that? The requested area variance is substantial.
No,
No.
for-
not by number or any other reason.
So and here I would cite that it's for 39 square feet.
It's 39 square feet and it's literally on the same
Same, right?
Yes.
footprint as the bottom floor.
Proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
No.
No,
And the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant, but shall not necessarily preclude granting a variance.
I don't think it was self-created either because the setback, the first floor is existing non-conforming. So in order to build on top of it, you're automatically going to be at a disadvantage.
Right.
It could have been that the house, and I don't know, it could have been built before that provision was added,
Right.
which almost makes sense because then the required setback would have been 8 feet.
We've gone through the area variance testing. And if there's, if by reason of going through the testing, it looks like this application would be approved. May I have a motion to approve this application?
Motion to approve, Olga.
May I have a second?
Oh, Bob, second.
Roll call vote.
Kyle Aberrizak,
Aye.
Olga Montez,
Aye.
Bob Durea,
Aye.
Michael Spall,
Aye.
Chair Cheatham.
Aye. Your application is approved. Please note that it may take a moment for you to get a while.
A month is the standard that we're using.
To get the paperwork necessary, so please wait before you do any permits and things necessary. But enjoy your holidays and have a great day.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, board members, Mr. Agostinelli. Thank you very much for your time and for the added explanation. Thank you. Have a happy holiday season, all of you. I'm already in the mood.
Happy holidays.
Take care, everybody.
Enjoy.
Thank you much.
We are up to ZBA 25-2022, 32 Bell Avenue. Is there anyone here to speak on this application?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Hernandez, you are on your way over. If you could turn on your camera and unmute, please.
You don't get where you want to either. You're going to never.
Okay, Mr. Hernandez.
Yep. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are everybody? Is Mr. Ibrahim Jamal in the audience as well?
I will move him over.
Okay. This project, thank you for your time, for the board. This project is, our client is the Aslan Snack Shop, which is located at 32 Bell Avenue. It's the intersection of Bell Avenue and Route 133. This location has been a gas station for the last 40 years. In 1981, it received the planning board approval to be a gas station. Let me see if I can share a screen. There you go. Does the board see my screen or?
Yes.
Okay. In 1981, this became a gas station. There used to be 2 properties, and there used to be a house on the property. Part of these approval back then was to remove the house and eliminate all mechanical work. As the time went by, there was another approval that was obtained. My client is a tenant. He's been a tenant since 2007. And in 2015, we were in front of the board, and then we withdrew without prejudice. We listened to concern from the neighbors, and then we're back now to get this approved. The reason we are in front of you is because this is an S75 zone. Like I said, this has approval prior, but we are expanding in nonconformity, and it requires all sorts of variances because of the size of the lot and the shape of the lot. So this is what we have now, and there's an existing snack shop. If you can follow the red line, that's the snack shop in the storage area. What we are proposing to do is to enlarge the snack shop. The footprint will be enlarged by about 165 square feet, and we added a small office for Abraham at the second floor. We also added landscaping to give it a little bit more separation with the residential. We are creating or delineating 4 parking spaces and an accessible parking space along Upper Crown Avenue. As you can tell in this diagram here that we created because of the shape of the lot and the zone we're in, there's basically whatever is done in the lot, it will require variances. Again, this is the red line, is the existing snack shop, and this is the existing storage area. It had been damaged at one point by fire as well. We're proposing to do is give it a better entry, have a cashier where it has a better view of the canopies, and in the area we're introducing a accessible bathroom, and on the second floor we are adding a basically proposed storage and an area so Abraham can use as an office and can have view of the store downstairs. As the elevations and as the work goes, we are trying to do our best to make this more residential looking and comparable to the neighborhood. As you can tell again, we are giving it a more residential look, and a residential look that matches the adjacent house on Upper Crown Avenue. These are some view from the existing. Again, this had an approval in 1981. Also want to point out that there's no increase in the parking demand that we're creating. This will make it a more, again, friendly, aesthetically pleasing snack shop. We have a total of 5 parking spaces, including the accessible one. When we go through the requirements for area variance, please keep in mind that he owns the business or owns a tenant in the business since 2007, that the original resolution eliminated any automotive work as well as the demolition of demolish the building on the property. So that reduced the capacity for storage on the property and also created a larger area, which is harder to maintain. Some of the items are out and open right now. It will be inside the store. It doesn't, again, I think as we show with the elevation, there is no alteration to the character of the neighborhood. I think this the look that we're proposing is much more apropos with the neighborhood residential homes. The other thing to keep in mind is that there was a concern about the noise from the road, but most of the road that the neighborhood has is that noise is defined in the code. It comes from most of the traffic on Route 99, which is adjacent and elevated to the adjacent residential homes. Also issues with the lighting, the lights and the canopy of the gas station, they're all down LED and do not affect the neighborhood So when we propose this, we end up with requiring again 4 variances, which is side yard and rear yard and front yard, or both front yards. And also we need a variance because we increased in the non-conformity for more than 10%.
The non-conforming use, just to clarify, it's a
Non-conforming use, yes.
What's being proposed?
the gas station and snack shop is a non-conforming use.
Got
So
it.
by,
Getting rid of it, you get rid of the non-conforming.
well, you're not getting rid of it. You're doing an addition to it and adding, you're doing a ground floor addition and adding a second floor to it. So you're expanding.
Right,
the
so this is
non-conforming use.
S75 now, so it should be a residential area.
Right.
But it's non-conforming use existing right now.
Correct. And you, so by doing the additions to the building, you are increasing or expanding the non-conforming use. So it's not just the setback variances.
So I need to, I guess, clarify, because by the pictures, are you redoing the snack shop with an addition, or are you just building on top of it, or you?
They're doing an addition. Oh,
Well, it's additional alteration. We are taking the same footprint and enlarging it. So we're basically, if let me go back to the plan. We're basically connecting what is now the storage area and the existing snack shop.
But
So
that
this,
that was a storage shed that I'm not sure had permits.
Right.
Or was part of the
Or was-
approvals.
yeah,
Joe, you want to clarify?
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. It's the main structure there has a, right alongside of it has an accessory shed structure. But what, you know, they may look at it that it's not changing the building percentage on the lot per se for the square footage, but you're increasing the size of the main building by putting a first floor addition on it, removing the shed structure, and then putting an entire second floor on top of that. So it is an extension of the first floor and an addition of the second floor of the building.
This is Mike Spall. I noticed that you're putting landscaping in the rear of the property. Is that because you want to visually block the rear residents from seeing the second floor of the new gas station?
yes, I mean, this is, we, in the process, in this discussion with this planning staff and with the neighbors, and from for a prior presentation to the board, there was a concern to kind of minimize the visual with the neighborhood. And that's why we added the road trees in the back, and we added some landscaping along the Bell Avenue.
I have a question, Olga. So if I'm understanding, approving this would move further away from the conformity of how this property is supposed to be used and furthering into the non-conformant way.
yes.
It's an investment in the non-conformity.
Yes.
Okay.
But the non-conformity, I mean, this was approved as a gas station since 1981. So we not in, so we are upgrading and trying to bring this more into the residential look so much as more the neighborhood. But yes, we're not changing the use that has been for the last 40 years. We're maintaining the use.
You're not changing the use, but what asking for the variance for more than 10%, it's just you're extending what's already a non-conformity into
Yes.
larger non-conformity for square footage.
Non-conforming uses is not to invest, is that eventually they go away.
Right.
So,
So we're actually asking for a double non-conforming use, like we're doubling the.
yeah, so although we're not approving from the beginning, non-conforming use variance, we are expanding a use variance, and use variances are typically more stringently adhered to and questioned. So while aesthetically, I'm sure it would look better on that property than what's currently there, personally, I think there's a very high bar for doubling a non-conforming use. That's a pretty important precedent to set in a residential district.
So I guess I also have the question of, and I know you kind of touched on, what would be on the second floor if there's an office, but is there storage space up there? Like, I was confused as to what is going on the second floor besides the office
What's being stored.
and what's being stored, because that, I know you have propane tanks outside. I drove by the other day. I'm hoping you're not going to store them on the second floor.
No, no, that's not, yeah.
Well, to ask the question, he also sells firewood and things like that. Would that still be displayed on the outside? Because I would hope he's not putting like firewood and things like that in that storage area too, because it is combustible.
Yeah, no, nothing that, anything that could be stored here be items like, item that he has for sale, like sodas and items that he will have on display here.
But
It's
but
not-
by
it's not gonna be-
eliminating the storage shed. And if he's continuing to sell other products such as, firewood, other things that won't be stored up on that second floor, obviously, that would mean that storage or that display is still going to be on the outside of on the property.
And we took into account like the wood, I mean, we do have, and this was something that we discussed at this time, we did show the wood display area to be under the porch, and that's what we created like a portico. So it is all part of the same. But I just want to clarify something, and I don't know if Linda can help me with this. It's still an area variance, right?
No,
No.
no, because you have a non-conforming use and you're changing that non-conforming.
It's an expansion of a non-conforming
Yeah,
use.
so we have to judge that as a use variance on that specific.
Okay, I understood as that being like, because it's an area issue. So I'm enlarging the,
It's a use issue.
okay.
Well, the reason why I only mention about some of the outdoor storage is, and I know that may be part of like a site plan issue, but it does affect, the decision of the zoning board to want to grant variances because the intention is to create storage on the second floor. But a lot of the stuff that's displayed on the exterior of the building really is not gonna clean up per se the site by granting the variance to create storage because those items that he sell will still be along the property. Which has always been one of the problems is that, for the size of this lot, he does, try to sell a lot of product, different things, propane, firewood and so forth, that kind of maximizes, he's trying to utilize the lot for so many things that he's selling. So that's not really going to change a lot of the display that's on the property now, because the propane tanks are still going to be there. The firewood's still going to be there. Maybe the only thing he's storing in there is what's essentially in the shed, but we're taking down the shed where he puts the storage to increase the size of the building. So, I mean, in taking to effect whether or not that kind of makes the site more tidy, for lack of any other word, that's really not going to happen with the storage upstairs.
I guess my other question that I have is, he said there's parking for 4 spaces, but what is the required parking for if they enlarge the size of the building?
So JB, you've calculated that out with the office space and all what you have to provide on off-street?
Yeah, we calculated, it's actually, we will need only 4.
Well, with
good.
the reason, one of the issues with this is, this being an S75 zone, the S75 zone in the parking calculations only calculates dwelling units. So how it's being calculated, as far as I would see it, as when they go to the planning board, that the planning board, if in the calculation of the zoning code, there is no formal calculation provided for this type of use, that the planning board, I believe there's an asterisk to it that says the planning board can determine the amount of parking that is required. And if you cannot provide that amount of parking, then they would refer you over to the zoning board for a variance for that. And I believe, Linda, you can maybe, verify that, but I believe that's how our code says. Because if you go into the S75, there is no parking calculation for a gas station use and office use. It's supposed to be dwelling units.
Right, and you don't have any dwelling units here, so the parking should relate to the use.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why my question is, you have 4 parking spaces, but you're talking office space, employees, plus anyone coming in to, utilize the convenience store.
Right, so what's logical is to look at, in a zone where this is permitted, this particular use, what would the parking requirement be?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but I believe then the planning board may be able to use that as a parameter, but I believe they have to set the amount of parking spaces on the site that's needed.
And this would need site plan approval from the planning board as well.
Yeah.
So, okay,
So when you're looking at, if we're looking at this from the parking aspect, we have about 600, roughly 600 square feet, 700, even 700 square feet of a store at the first level, which if we take that as retail, will be 2 parking spaces or maximum 3 parking spaces. Then we have an office and storage upstairs. Even with that, we can add another parking space, but also we do have 5 total, counting the accessible parking space. And you have to keep in mind that when somebody's using the snack shop, there also are at the pump putting gas, so there are additional 4 parking or 4 people that can be parking and going in. So I mean, right now, as you observe the place, there is seldomly there is more than 2 or 3 parking cars parked in the lot.
So I guess to Linda, and I'm thinking chicken and egg here. Do we need to wait for site plan approval? Because if they're gonna.
Well, they can't approve the site plan until you review the variance, but you could certainly refer it to them. And I've actually spoken to the new planner about this, it could be referred to the planning board for them to get a first look at it and comment before you proceed further with the variance.
That's a good idea.
I think I'd like them to at least come. It seems like we'd be running in circles if we went through the whole process.
Yeah, there's gonna be some back and forth between the boards on this application.
Yes.
We're not ready.
I could think of at least 2 other lots within the village, which are corner lots with gas stations on next to residential areas. So I'm curious, this S75, whether or not this exists in other locations, and have they ever come before the board to change those locations?
Yeah.
That's one thing. The thing that gives me pause is that these 2 small buildings, which are currently in non-conforming use, commercial and residential, those exist. I see them too. But now we're like, all right, well, let's make them bigger. Let's take the non-conforming use and make it even a bigger non-conforming use. What impact does that have? What precedent does that set? Because there's a Shell gas station on the corner of, what is it?
The other side,
Yeah, the other side of Austin where I live.
Yeah.
And it would be crazy if they put a 2-story structure there on that really small lot. And that's a more commercial district than this is.
Yeah, and I mean, office, how much office space is really needed? Is it related to this use, or is it really sort of an unrelated, we're on offices tonight, an unrelated office? And what's being stored up there? Is it really part of this use?
Yeah.
I can revisit that with my client, see how much
Where
we can
this non-conforming use.
Yeah.
There was already an exception made on
Now
the
we need
guidelines
another.
of this area. And now they want another exception on top of an exception.
Right.
So my concern for the future is where's the limit on how many times a non-conforming use can be approved
Yeah.
and made bigger. And the more storage room you have, the more stuff you're going to store.
And I think that the question is, what is being stored again, because this is the area, and I don't know if anyone has driven by, but they do have
Mhm.
things
Yeah,
that are
firewood
on.
and propane.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
those aren't going upstairs.
No.
We're hoping that.
We're hoping they're
upstairs.
not.
Well,
Um,
I don't think you can legally store propane.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take a look at the, the amount of space that we have upstairs. If, an office that size is needed. We can also give you a list, a better understanding of what's going to be stored there and how often it's going to be accessed. And I mean, I think I know which Shell station you're talking about, but I think that's a general business district, so it's hard to compare. And this,
No,
That's the
that's my point. My point is that it is a business district,
Yes.
and I think it would be out of place for them to do this kind of expansion.
Even there.
Here we are in a residential district where an exemption.
right, but that Shell station has a much, I mean, I think a snack shop, versus a mechanical shop, is very hard to give it an even compare. And also, don't forget that this had a mechanical shop and it was eliminated. And there was a house that was being used as an office. It became part of it.
What you're hearing, and maybe you want to discuss it with what you're hearing is that this board is hesitant to allow this big of an increase in a building that houses a non-conforming use, where you're really investing.
Right.
You're investing in a non-conforming use, which
So
shouldn't be there.
and to Mr. Hernandez, I think that to help with this, I understand that, what you would like to do on top of the building, increase the building, add a second story, may be more than what, because you're asking to double the non-conforming use of a building. And I think that we have paused with that.
Yeah.
We have paused with a shed that was there that is already a non-conforming use. We have paused with it being a lot that is non-conforming and was given permission to be a non-conforming use in a residential area. So there's a lot of questions that we have. So I think in my head, I would like to entertain, oh, wait a minute. I would like to open the public hearing. I forgot about that. Sorry about that. So is there anyone to speak on this matter?
You need a motion. to open
I mean, I
public
need a motion.
Motion to open the
Yeah,
public hearing. Bob.
Seconded, Kyle.
Okay. Is there anyone in the building to speak on this matter?
No.
She's here for the last
Oh,
application.
no.
We're good.
Is there anyone online to speak on this matter? And is there anybody by email to speak on this matter? If that is the case, may I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Seconded, Olga.
Okay, if there's no objection, the public hearing will be adjourned. I think to Mr. Hernandez and to the owner, I think the board needs a little bit more information, and I think that we would like to have some input from the planning department before we can move forward.
I
At
would
least
also,
take a look at the application and come back with some recommendations from them. And yes, Kyle.
I think you might have a more favorable environment with an alteration to your plan that looks at a different scenario. If this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, what is combining those two current buildings that are on the property into one single-story building and providing alternatives for outdoor storage for the stuff that's there now? That might be, and maybe it isn't worthwhile to you or to your client, but I just want to give you a very honest, transparent assessment of my perspective, which is that is a very hard sell as it is right now.
I agree.
Even with information of what's going to be stored on the second floor, I think it's a hard sell, and I don't want to lead you on and have you come back for us to make a decision one way or the other.
Yeah, I think it's an overreach. I think it is too, what you're proposing is too much more than you've already gotten a variance for.
I think that I'd like to hear from the planning department to see if they have.
Well,
some
I mean, if we-
recommendations for us, as well as asking the applicant to look
Are you saying the
at.
planning department or the
I
planning
mean,
board?
planning board, I'm sorry.
So, but
you know.
the only thing that, just hearing some of what I'm hearing here, is it worth their time and the planning board's time to send it to them in this format if this board is really not likely to approve it in this format?
I think as it stands right. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that, what strikes me about this application is that, is it possible for them to go from S 75 with a use variance and change this into a commercial property?
Well, that would be up to the board of
That would be up
trustees.
to the
Yeah.
board of
I don't know.
And just use a
It's
reason.
It's a single
Process.
isolated lot.
But,
That can't,
but remember,
It can, but you're not gonna do, it's still in a residential area.
It's
right,
like,
and what your suggestion is basically like spot zoning.
Yeah.
Usually, town and village boards don't really like to
Yeah.
just spot zone something just for the type of use that's there.
thank you, Joe. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah, so, yes, because if you remember, for
Okay.
16 campus, it was an absolute no.
they did actually try to get it changed for 16
Which
campus.
would have solved their problems.
It wouldn't have solved their problems, but they did try to get the zone changed and they denied them.
Right.
Okay,
for
so,
some reason.
may I entertain? I don't know what to entertain now, because I.
So
I
it's,
really
it's a
like-
question of whether you want to refer it to the planning board as is, or whether you want to sort of ask them, based on what they've heard here, to take a look at it and see if they want to continue to pursue it. And maybe it's up to them.
I was gonna say,
Um,
is- so I'm gonna defer to
Do something like that.
our employees and to JB to look at the site again, to see if there's anything else that can reasonably be done that does not double the non-conforming use.
More than that.
More than double the non-conforming use. And, you know, I would entertain coming back next month. If we have different plans or different use, if that is not feasible and you want to stick with this plan, then I would ask that that the planning board weigh in. Planning board, not the planning board weigh in to give us some guidance as to what their thoughts may be towards this. And with that being said,
So it sounds like you're referring it to the planning board either way, so why don't?
So can-
well, no, I think
Not yet.
not yet. I think that if they come back with different plans, like that they submit other plans, then next month that we will look at it.
Basically, Mr. Hernandez, we're giving you an opportunity to not vote on it today, adjourn. If you come with different plans, we'll entertain the different plans, and depending on that proposal, then we'll either involve the planning board or make a vote ourselves. But as presented today, it doesn't look good, and we're kind of giving you an opportunity to revise.
Well said.
I am understanding that I would like to adjourn it and have the opportunity to come back next month with a revision to this plan. And we will also have, we're on the process of submitting, or we are in the process of being in front of the planning board, so we will submit the same changes to them. So either way, if the board wants us to refer us to them or the board approve us on the next meeting, then we be in front of the planning board for the next meeting in January for both.
You meet again before
But
they get on the planning board,
Okay.
because they wouldn't be on the planning board until January.
So, with that being said, may I entertain a motion to adjourn? this
Motion to
application?
adjourn, Olga?
Second, Mike.
If there's no objection to the adjournment of this applicant, motion carried. And we look forward to seeing you again next month, Mr. Hernandez.
Have a nice holiday, everybody.
We can't all be Christmas gifts.
No, no.
Yeah, but you didn't even have like an in-between.
CBA 29/2022, and we have to 4 Terrace Avenue.
Yes, we are.
Good evening, I'm Julie Evans. I'm the architect for Margaret Ellsberg, who is the owner of this property. And it is her hope and my hope to have.
Could you just speak up a little bit?
Certainly. So our intention is to ask for area variance for a first floor bedroom addition to her home. And we will need rear yard, side yard, impervious and building coverage to achieve this. You know, the need I stated in my narrative, you know, Margaret's husband has suffered a dramatic and sudden health crisis, and he will be returning to the home and cannot occupy a second floor bedroom anymore. So for them to stay in this residence, the room is essential. So I'm starting with the hardship, and I'll continue with the physical facts of the site and the neighborhood. This part of Terrace Avenue, every single lot is non-conforming in terms of width. I mean, they're all give or take 35-foot wide lots. You know, homes built plus or minus 100 years ago, row house scale. And the other thing about this side of the street is that the lots are also not terribly deep. They're all 80 feet. So adding really anything is a bit of a challenge. Adding anything would require side yard setbacks. And in this case, we are requesting a 2.7-foot rear yard variance as well. And the reason it's 2.7 is that the room we want to build is going to be 10 feet by 10 feet, which is just about big enough for a queen size bed with room for 2 adults to walk around. An advantage to the existing home is that there's already a 3-fixture first floor bath, and there's an existing rear window that can be easily transformed into the new bedroom door. So this will be done with really a minimum amount of demolition and disruption to the existing home. And I don't know if my plans are queued up, if my present.
Got it all.
Not a, okay. Yeah. I mean, I can certainly share what I have on paper.
No, this may be easier.
Yeah, she's got it.
Okay.
I'll follow it up.
Okay. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right.
Easier.
Yeah, so let's see. I have, yeah.
It's gonna be a handicap access room,
Yeah.
wide door for wheelchair if necessary down the road.
It'll be, you know, it'll be 2'10", 2'10" and a half. We're trying to do minimum
Bathrooms right there.
reframing. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the existing and proposed site plan. And then we have, that's, you know, the context. Charming red house is hers, and this is the existing elevations and plans for the home. There it is. And then proposed, so the rear bump out basically extrudes a hip roof, single story back porch area, finished porch that exists. And then if you go up a little bit, you'll be able to see, there we go. So there's the bedroom with the other side of the extension. It is likely that we will be doing insulated slab as opposed to full crawl here. I mean, the grade goes up. We're going to be against a cellar space, against a crawl space. So we're trying to also be circumspect about how much excavating is involved in this as well. So, and then I'm showing windows on all three sides of the addition. You know, egress towards the back, and then awning windows on both sides so that it'll start to become a little bit part of the garden. That's.
I guess Bob's plan, Bob's question was, does his current medical status have the possibility of requiring accessibility accommodations?
Yes.
And medical durable equipment, so that we have to factor the needed room for such things?
I mean, and I would expect walker and wheelchair for the short-term, walker for the long-term, we will see. Yes, yes.
So the egress to the back, is the
Right.
handicap wheelchair access, yes?
The back is at grade.
Is that great? So the
Yeah.
door will come right out. So,
Yeah. So if to the right in plan, to the right of the bedroom,
yes,
there's a mudroom vestibule.
right.
That's almost at grade. If we go to the existing photos, which are a couple of screens back, we show. There we go. So that's the back entry,
Okay,
and we're about 3 inches above, so that could be an accommodation for sure.
okay,
So that back
That's
entry will lead towards that room?
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be wheelchair access and accessible, because you don't want to have to come back.
That's right. Yeah, and we do not expect to create ramps in the front.
But you will need to. If
That was my next question, as I'm looking at the picture of the front.
It is not accessible.
I know, no, I know.
Yeah.
No, the handicap access would only be at the rear.
Right.
So,
So my biggest holdup is unrelated necessarily to the physical hardship, which I completely
Sure.
empathize with. But the variance lives with the property, not the owner. So the owner's does the owner's need in this case exceed that permanent change to the community is?
Well, that's again, so that's your balancing.
That's our
You're
balance.
you're balancing the benefit to the applicant against the impact on the, any detriment to the neighborhood. So you have to really still look at, well, does this create any detriment to the neighborhood?
Or precedence, because if we allow it at one home, all those homes are similarly situated on small skinny lots where they're all gonna come up against side and rear yard setbacks.
So the
So-
side,
Precedent's
I
only a
would like,
problem
sorry.
if it's a negative
If it's
impact.
in the
I would like, if you look closely at the neighborhood context, every house on that lot is non-conforming regarding side yard. And many of them have either been occupied by garages or other extensions to the back. So if you sort of take away the side yard, which is universal, we're asking for 2.7 feet of rear yard variance. And that is as strident as I will get.
right.
So the new variance, the place that's
Right.
not non-conforming today is just the 2.7.
Right. I have no question about this. I get it.
This is actually, I believe, is this S75 zone district?
It's a T.
Because it's S75, right? Your width of your properties is supposed to be
Yes.
minimum 75 feet. This property is what, like 25 or 27 feet wide?
Yeah, that's why the side yard setbacks really,
Yeah,
Right, so I mean, anything you're going to try to expand on this property, I don't think there's possibly almost no way you're not gonna need some type of variance in that zone district based on the parameters of what the setbacks are, because these lots are so narrow to begin with. So I mean, I would, have a consideration of the fact of the size of the lot. That there's almost, anything you would do here, you're gonna need a variance pretty much.
Because it's so undersized.
Because the lot itself. is so-
Yes.
What about the shed?
I was gonna ask you about the shed.
Well, the shed, all accessory structures supposed to have a 5-foot setback. I believe this one is right on the property line on the side yard.
Been
And that's
there.
I
existing.
mean, the question would be, is this shed on a permanent foundation or is it something that could be moved? Because I mean, I understand there's a concrete block wall, but the shed could be moved a little bit forward and then towards the center, away from the property, but I don't know if that, I mean, I guess you can enlighten us if the shed is on a foundation or is it something that can be moved?
Right. Now, is that okay? Is that approved to be there?
No, that's what.
No, yeah, it predates this owner.
It came at the house.
Yeah, it came to the house. I don't remember how far away it is from, there's a small retaining wall in back.
Right.
So whether how close we can get, I mean, how far away we can get from that.
Is it a permanent, do you know if it's a permanent shed or just like a, I bought the shed from Sears and it can be moved over?
Right.
Mhm.
So we need 1.2 feet in the back. It would have to come forward and then.
That's the problem, is can it go to the side
Can it go-
Right, right.
because of that retaining wall?
I have a
Yes.
question, just
Yes.
because there's the pictures that you give us in the plans, and then I did kind of a quick satellite search.
Right.
This right here, is this the porch that you're talking about, and is that where the room would be built on top of? Are we,
No.
is that the right property? I mean, it says it is, but maybe I'm not looking at the right thing.
These matters are not here
The
tonight.
single
This is your, right?
floor area
Yeah.
is here.
This is the
If
last
you
one.
Look at that.
Yeah, you're just
I
here
don't
to
know
is that
remember
a
that they
porch?
exist.
Do they have a porch there?
No, that's a slate patio. That's
A patio.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
So we're talking right
The house
here.
right next door has a shed.
next to the patio.
Bigger shed.
Right.
And then the shed is this little thing?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
That's squeezing.
It's tight. Yeah.
Is there anything else on the board? If there's nothing else on the board, then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Bob.
Seconded, Kyle.
If there's no objection to opening the public hearing, and the public hearing is now opened, is there anyone online that is here to speak to this application?
Is anybody there?
We mailed 47 letters.
If there's no one to speak on this application, may I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Seconded, Olga.
Just to be clear on the setbacks, because it's very confusing by the zoning sheet.
Right.
Can we make sure that we have the
Yes.
correct
Show zoning shed.
numbers?
Yeah, the ask, I realize that on the zoning sheet, did I give that? Do I have the request of 7.8 feet for one side yard and 18.7 for the next?
You have,
It's written by hand, but
Yeah.
it doesn't show up on the first sheet of my
Right.
drawing. So that's the ask
for
for the side
one
yard.
side yard, you're requesting 7.8,
7.8,
and
right,
another
and
is
it's
18.7
Yes.
for the both together.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
And that's the
and the rear yard is,
2 and 10.5 inches.
Right.
2.7.
Thanks, yeah.
So that's the question is, this is a T-zone, right? So I believe the setbacks on the T-zone on the one side and the both side, you may be using what previous setbacks, those aren't the current setbacks requirements.
so can we get the correct information?
Let me look it up. I think it was like reduced to 8 and 20 feet. For both sides, because we changed the S75 and the T-zone requirements, I believe. Let me double check that.
Okay. And for the accessory structure, are we doing this the variance for that as well, because it literally is on. the
It's
front.
8 and 20.
That's the shed. The accessory
Minimum
structure.
side yard is, minimum one side is 8. Both is 20. And it's
Yeah, because the 12 and 28 was the previous setback until they changed that this past year.
Right.
So it's 8 and 20.
So that takes it down to
So
4.
that reduces the amount of the variance.
So the one side yard is 4.2?
Right.
No,
No.
So
Big.
that'd be
4.2 there.
3 point,
yeah, they
That'd be
have
3.8.
4.2, so it
3.8.
becomes
Yes.
3.8.
3.8,
Okay.
And 20 becomes 10.7.
10.7. Okay. And the accessory structure, what are we doing? with
And
that?
the side yard doesn't come any closer than the existing.
I believe on the accessory structure, it's 5 feet, so, and they have 0 on one side, so if the variance was granted, it would have to be 5 feet to cover both the side and the rear yard. Because the code just says accessory structures 5 feet from property lines.
Right.
Right.
Can I ask you, is that shed, I know it came with the property,
Mhm.
do they need it?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no garage, there's no, so, yeah.
I think that the question is if it's a movable shed and not a fixed shed, if they can
Yeah.
slide it over, fine.
Maybe.
But I think that they're here now, so I think we need to.
It would compromise the use of an already small yard
Right.
is
Okay,
what I would.
what about the
suggest.
addition itself? Is there room underneath the addition? Is it gonna be built on slab or is it gonna be built with a basement?
I'm looking at building it with a slab, an insulated slab, full footings.
Okay, so there may be room underneath the structure for
No,
what's in the shed.
we're almost at grade.
Yeah, it needs to be
Yeah,
great
that's-
because
that's the
it's
thing.
handicap access.
Yeah.
And that's first
Okay.
floor grade, which
Gotcha.
not changing
Yeah,
Okay.
the first
Yes.
floor level.
Okay.
And you-
It's a,
Mhm.
So to be clear, we're looking at a one side yard, a side yard setback of.
For the shed or for the
No.
addition?
For the addition,
For the addition,
It's
you've got
3.8.
3.8,
and then
where a variance of
a
3.8.
variance of 3.8. Both side yard variance of 10.7,
Mhm.
and the accessory shed is 5 feet.
Right.
Am I correct?
It's 1.2 in the rear, it's 5 on the side.
Under the steps.
Right, and then they still need the impervious surface and building coverage variances.
Mhm.
the existing impervious is 59% in a 40% zone, and now it's gonna be 63.
Yeah, and I believe it's up to 63% now.
That's not.
That's because the lot is so small.
And then the building coverage is supposed to be 30%. I believe they're around 37%.
Before the addition.
32 is.
32 before,
32
36
existing.
after.
Right.
And then you'd move up to 37. Gotcha.
36.
36.
There's this. So it's not that much. Change.
Okay.
So-
I guess we're ready.
You have to consider whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
I'm gonna say no, with the small caveat that increases in impervious coverage have been a consistent thorn in this board's side with a lot of property owners because the drainage issues become more and more poignant. So for the record, we at least address that.
Well said. I agree with that.
Agreed.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a no, but the drainage needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than a variance.
I wouldn't think so.
No,
No.
no.
The lot size.
Because of the existing
Yes.
non-conformities and the
Yes.
small size of the house. Requested area variance is substantial.
Yes, but considering the needs outweigh.
And actually, I think what's really substantial is the
The
existing
existing
non-conformity.
exactly.
The increases really aren't that substantial.
Right.
Sort of an odd. Okay, proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
No.
And say no one physical, again, with an asterisk about potential
Drainage,
impervious
right.
coverage. and
Drainage,
drainage.
right, is impervious surface.
Many properties doing it at scale
Right.
has the potential to create a problem.
And the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
No.
It's a
Small
result
lot.
of the small lot.
Yeah, this one.
Exigent circumstance.
Like your words.
Yeah, good Scrabble word.
Okay, I think with that being said, we've gone through the area variance test, and I believe that we are approving this application. We need a roll, no, we have a motion.
Motion to approve these variances.
This variance. this
Seconded, Olga.
application.
So moved, Kyle, seconded.
I
Olga.
thought it was Bob.
Oh, did you get it, Bob?
I did.
Great.
What you guys fighting over?
No. Especially loud.
You can
Okay.
have it if you want.
Whoa, 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 you guys been fighting over it all night. Roll call, Michael Spall,
Aye.
Bob Dureo,
Aye.
Olga Montez,
Aye.
Kyle Aberrizak,
Aye.
Marlene Cheatham.
Aye. Please note
Congratulations.
that your paperwork will not come for at least a month. Okay, so before you start digging.
But you could start on building permit plans.
Plans and.
It's just that the resolution usually
just don't
doesn't
dig
get
any-
signed for a month.
Right, but I also understand they'll need ARB. That's.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
So.
You can go ahead with that.
you can go ahead with
Okay,
everything.
very
else,
good.
But just
Thank you so
understand that our
much.
people
Thank you
will-
for your
You
thoughtfulness.
do a lot of these handicap access.
Okay,
additions,
that's a
sorry.
later. discussion. Call her tomorrow. Call her
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to get in front of me.
We are up to continuing business of the board,
We have none.
and I believe that the applications are all adjourned.
Yay.
Thank you for waiting.
January, I guess to the January meeting, which would be ZBA 28.
Or until the applicants come back.
Until the applicants come back. Okay, so ZBA 28, 2022, ZBA 05, 2022, and ZBA 15, 2022. So with that being said, if there's no other business, and if there's nothing else to discuss.
Michael's trying to say something.
Yes, Mike.
Two things. Number one is that we got a bunch of paper on 28 Croton Avenue. Is that something that's going to appear before our board eventually?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually.
You got just the planning board circulated its notice of the lead agency.
And
a
the other
couple
thing,
months later.
yeah, another thing too is the Camp Woods Road application that's been late. If we could push them to show them what would look nice, what works. There's a whole garden center near me across from Santa Estes Church, which is a perfect property for them.
So
Is anybody familiar with that piece of
I
property?
am, yes.
I sent Linda,
yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
long email, where I referenced case law in Westchester County.
Yeah, I'm trying, I have to get back to them. We've gone over some issues with them on what they need to get us. Need to go a little further on that. I don't want to waste this board's time anymore, unless they come back to us. Joe did do a fire inspection, a safety inspection, and did give them a list of things that need to
Right,
be
speaking of fire.
taken care of.
My point is that they probably get the single family homes in that existing Camp Wood Road, sell it, and then buy the nice piece of property in North Highland Avenue.
They could do a lot.
They could do a lot.
Mhm.
So for
Yeah.
us, especially because Linda or Marlene, somebody shared an article about when a board makes a decision without adhering to the law, how. it
That
can
was
get-
me.
That was Marlene.
Yes.
So we have to be careful of that. but
I
then-
want to tell y'all, there was, I think it was in the New York Times. That there was a board in Westchester that made a decision that ended up being
Your attorneys
overturned.
won't let you do that.
Yeah,
Your attorneys won't let you do
that,
that.
that board openly
That's why I live
commented on things that were not appropriate.
And one more issue too, that, as a matter of history, I see, we talked a lot about this evening about non-conforming uses, in other words, where the setbacks are not correct and things of that sort. Has the zoning law ever been reviewed in total, in order to try to take neighborhoods like that to show that nobody's ever gonna not be up here before the board if they want to do anything because of the fact that setbacks are just
Well, no,
Well, it's not just setbacks, it's more
Yeah.
about the use.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's constantly being looked at, and
Right.
I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about this because they're not on the agenda and they're not here.
right.
But Camp Woods, they did go to the Board of Trustees to discuss changing the zoning, and the Board of Trustees was not willing to change the zoning.
Yes, that.
Yeah.
And just so you know, on the other adjourned matters, 2 State Street, in light of the fire at 4 State Street, the applicant is deciding how he wants to deal with the 2 lots.
I didn't even know there was one.
Oh my gosh, it's gone.
It's gone.
Building's gone.
The whole house is gone.
How did I not know this?
Oh, good.
I drive by State Street all the time.
I'm a
Clearly, you
hermit,
haven't
that's
driven
my
by since
excuse.
Sunday.
Nice to say, if you drive by now, that building that was supposed to be a bar,
Yeah, it's gone.
it's gone, I mean, literally.
It's
gone.
No evidence it was ever
It's
there.
not
Right.
Yeah.
It's the tree, that whole lot is just
Multiple alarm fire.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Croton did come down
Wow,
and
get your way.
assist.
Wow.
Yes, luckily no one was hurt.
That-
Was
that-
that used at all?
The house was
No.
empty.
Well, they,
We think.
it
We
was,
hope.
Well,
Nobody was hurt.
there were squatters living there, but apparently they were not home.
well, we think squatters were living there, they don't know totally.
So,
So,
Is the meeting adjourned?
no, not yet, because Michael interrupted that.
it was,
I'm just trying to learn.
it was a good
I'm trying
question.
to
It
learn.
was a good question.
You know.
Good question.
I learned the
So
hard
if
way.
there's nothing else, if there's nothing else, I may entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Olga.
Seconded Kyle.
And if there's no objection.
This time.
Carries.
And we will
3
see
questions
you,
per meeting. That's
We'll
it.
see you all next year.
see you in 2023.
So
Happy holidays.
happy
everybody.
holidays, all the various ones, and a happy new year.
If I'm, because I am
Happy holidays to all.
Olga,
Happy holidays, Joe.
I'm still
Bye, Joe.
relatively new to the board. I don't know, been here almost 2 years, but because we only meet once a month, the 2 things that were the most helpful to me